close your eyes for a moment and imagine the world 1,000 years ago. No electricity, no modern hospitals, no psychology books, no Google. People believed diseases were curses, mental illness was possession, and philosophy was dangerous thinking. Now imagine, in that world, someone writes a book that explains how the human mind thinks, how emotions affect the body, how logic should be used, and how the soul and reason coexist. This book is not written in Europe, not during the Renaissance, but in the Islamic Golden Age around 1000 CE. Its name was Kitab al-Shifa, the Book of Healing. But healing what? Not wounds, not fever. It was written to heal confusion, heal wrong thinking, and heal ignorance. For centuries, this book quietly educated the world. European universities taught it. Philosophers argued over it. Doctors relied on it. And today, most people have never even heard its name. This is the forgotten story of Ibn-e-Sina, and the book that healed minds before modern science was born. The year was 980 CE, in a quiet village near Bokhara, a city that was once a center of knowledge and culture. Here, a boy was born who would later be known as Ibn-e-Sina. From early childhood, people noticed something unusual. While other children struggled with basic reading, Ibn-e-Sina absorbed information effortlessly. By the age of 5, he was asking questions adults couldn't answer. By 10, he had memorized the entire Quran, not mechanically, but with understanding. His father was educated and noticed his son's potential. Instead of forcing him into routine work, he brought scholars to teach him. But Ibn-e-Sina wasn't satisfied with lessons. He wanted reasons. Why does the mind remember? Why do emotions change the body? Why does pain exist? Later in life, he wrote that whenever he faced confusion, he would pray, reflect, and return to study, often finding answers through deep thinking. This habit of reflection plus logic would become the backbone of the Book of Healing. By his teenage years, Ibn-e-Sina had already surpassed his teachers. Mathematics? Mastered. Astronomy? Understood. Philosophy? Deeply explored. But one field changed everything: medicine. At just 16, he began treating patients. Not copying other doctors, but observing patterns, symptoms, and emotional states. He believed illness was not random. It followed rules. When he successfully treated the Sultan of Bokhara, doors opened that no money could buy: the royal library. This library held rare Greek, Persian, and Indian manuscripts. Some books no longer exist today, except through Ibn-e-Sina's writings. Night after night, he read until exhaustion, sometimes fainting from hunger or lack of sleep. By 18, he said something shocking. There is no science left for me to study. I had mastered them all. This confidence wasn't arrogance. It was preparation. A preparation for organizing human knowledge itself. Despite his genius, Ibn-e-Sina's life was unstable. Political power shifted. Kings fell. Cities burned. And scholars like him were often caught in between. He moved constantly, from Bokhara to Gorgan, Ray, Isfahan, and Hamadan. Sometimes he served as a court physician, sometimes as a minister, sometimes as a prisoner. In this chaos, Ibn-e-Sina realized something painful. Knowledge was scattered. People knew pieces, but not the whole. Greek philosophy existed without spiritual balance. Religious thinking existed without logic. Medicine existed without understanding the mind. He believed this confusion was making humanity sick. So during these years of exile and uncertainty, he made a decision. He would write a book, not to cure diseases, but to heal human understanding. That decision gave birth to Kitab al-Shifa. When people hear the title, the Book of Healing, they often imagine a medical textbook, lists of herbs, diseases, and treatments. But Ibn-e-Sina meant something far deeper. To him, The real illness of humanity was confusion. People misunderstood the world. They misunderstood themselves. And because of that, they suffered physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Ibn-e-Sina believed that when thinking becomes disordered, life becomes disordered. Fear increases. Superstition spreads. Decisions worsen. Health declines. So this book was written to heal the intellect first. It was meant to teach people how to think clearly, understand cause and effect, separate truth from assumption, balance reason, faith, and experience. At a time when many believed questioning was dangerous, Ibn-e-Sina argued the opposite, that not questioning was the real danger. He didn't reject religion. He refined understanding. The Book of Healing was his attempt to organize all human knowledge into a single, logical system, so the human mind could function without chaos. In short, it was a book written to cure ignorance, not illness. Ibn-e-Sina deliberately began the Book of Healing with logic, and that choice itself tells us something important. He believed that before studying medicine, philosophy, or even religion, humans must first learn how to think properly. In this section, he explained how thoughts are formed in the mind, how ideas turn into beliefs, and how wrong assumptions slowly become truth if never questioned. He showed that many fears, conflicts, and even illnesses begin with faulty reasoning. For example, if a person believes something harmful without evidence, that belief can control emotions, stress the body, and damage health. This idea closely matches what modern psychology calls cognitive distortion. Ibn-e-Sina also warned against blind imitation. He believed knowledge should not be inherited blindly, but earned through reasoning. Centuries later, European philosophers used his logical framework to build their own systems. Scholars like Thomas Aquinas relied heavily on Ibn-e-Sina's work, especially in understanding cause, existence, and reasoning. Even today, critical thinking methods quietly reflect principles Ibn-e-Sina wrote 1,000 years ago. This section of the Book of Healing feels shockingly modern. Here, Ibn-e-Sina explored the natural world, not just plants and bodies, but the human mind. He wrote extensively about how emotions affect physical health, how stress weakens the body, how sleep restores both mind and body, how habits shape long-term health. At a time when mental illness was blamed on spirits or curses, Ibn-e-Sina argued that emotional pain could cause real physical symptoms. One famous story tells of a young prince who was slowly dying, despite no visible disease. Ibn-e-Sina observed his emotional reactions and discovered deep psychological distress. Treating the mind healed the body. Today, this is called psychosomatic illness. He also wrote about memory, imagination, fear, trauma, and even the healing power of routine. He believed humans are creatures of habit, and chaotic lifestyles lead to mental and physical breakdown. Modern neuroscience and psychology now confirm many of these ideas. This section proves Ibn-e-Sina was not just a physician. He was an early psychologist, centuries before the field existed. To Ibn-e-Sina, mathematics was not cold or lifeless. It was proof that the universe follows order, not chaos. In this section, he explored arithmetic, geometry, astronomy, music. He believed numbers explain structure, and structure brings stability to the human mind. One of the most fascinating parts is his discussion on music. Ibn-e-Sina believes sound has a direct effect on emotions. Different rhythms, tones, and melodies could calm anxiety, reduce sadness, or energize the mind. Today, we call this music therapy, used in hospitals, trauma recovery, and mental health treatment. He also linked astronomy with human routine, observing time, seasons and cycles helped humans live in harmony instead of mental exhaustion.
Geometry,
For Ibn-e-Sina,
music.
understanding mathematical and cosmic order wasn't academic, it was therapeutic. When humans understand their place in a structured universe, they feel less lost, less anxious, and more balanced. This is the most philosophical and daring section of the Book of Healing. Here, Ibn-e-Sina asks questions most people were afraid to ask. What does it mean to exist? Is the soul dependent on the body? Where does self-awareness come from? His famous floating man thought experiment explained this beautifully. He asked readers to imagine a man floating in empty space, unable to see, hear, or touch anything, not even his own body. Ibn-e-Sina argued that even in this state, the man would still know, I exist. This meant consciousness does not come from physical sensation alone. This idea deeply influenced later debates on consciousness, identity, mind versus body, human awareness. Even modern philosophers and AI researchers discuss similar questions today. In a time when questioning existence could be considered dangerous, Ibn-e-Sina calmly reasoned through it with logic, balance, and respect for faith. This section proves he was not just healing minds, but redefining what it means to be human. After Ibn-e-Sina passed away in 1037 CE, his ideas did not disappear. Instead, they traveled. By the 12th century, the Book of Healing was translated into Latin and spread across Europe. Universities in Paris, Bologna, Padua, and Oxford adopted his work as a core text. For nearly 6 centuries, students studied Ibn-e-Sina under the Latin name Avicenna. He was considered the final authority on logic, philosophy, and natural sciences. Ironically, while Europe advanced using his ideas, much of the Muslim world slowly shifted away from rational sciences. Many later European thinkers built their fame on foundations laid by Ibn-e-Sina, often without acknowledging him. Yet his influence was undeniable. Modern Western philosophy and medicine quietly carry his intellectual DNA. The Book of Healing was not written for one century, one culture, or one religion. It was written for human beings. In a modern world filled with information, noise, anxiety, and confusion, Ibn-e-Sina's message feels urgent again. He reminded us, heal the mind before treating the body. Question your thoughts. Balance logic with morality. Seek understanding, not blind belief. 1,000 years ago, he warned that ignorance spreads faster than disease. Today, that warning feels prophetic. Perhaps the real tragedy is not that the Book of Healing is old, but that humanity stopped reading it carefully. And perhaps healing begins again when we start thinking deeply once more.